So welcome everybody. I'm so excited to dive into one of the most unique and profitable real estate investment opportunities on the market right now, especially here in Marin County. It's not just a home, but it's a fully functioning, high-performing, short-term rental business right here at 11 Commodore Marina in Mill Valley. So let's talk about, I'm going to introduce you guys first, but we'll talk about why this opportunity has everybody buzzing. So I want to introduce everybody to Bob Warner. He is the listing agent. He's with Now Realty, EXP. And we've got Harold Hedelman, who is the owner and seller. So welcome, guys.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. I have some questions that I want to ask, but if you guys want to ask them too, that's great. Because I know that we're fielding a bunch of different questions from a bunch of different people at different times, right? So whatever comes to your mind, feel free to chime in. But first of all, why is this offering so intriguing to people?
Well, I think the first answer is it's a houseboat,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not very many of them out there. And second one is that it's making a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's in a really desirable location, right? You're in the thick of it, right? It's just what, 5 minutes away from the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. You're on, beautiful coastline of Mill Valley. You could walk to Sausalito. It definitely has people talking. So, and then Bob, I know what you're going to say. I don't know, but I'm going to assume that you're going to say it's not just a property, it's a turnkey business, right? Because you're the business guy.
Well, it is a turnkey business. I mean, the property produces somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 of revenue every month. Mm-hmm. And that's because there are 4 units on this very unique houseboat. It's the only 4-unit houseboat that I've been able to locate on the San Francisco Bay. I don't think there's another one that has 4 units. So it's unique in that way. Harold did an absolutely fabulous job of remodeling the boat so that it's very modern, up to date, and just a joy to stay in for people that are using it as a short-term rental. And that's why he has awesome 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
On all the platforms that he uses to help him with short-term rentals. So
yeah, you do get a lot of amazing, over-the-top amazing reviews. That must feel good.
Well, it does. It's almost the best part of the business because otherwise, you don't know how people feel about all your work.
Right.
We did put a lot of work in to make it good, so it is rewarding that way. And people choose this particular venue, I think, because it is so special. I mean, there's lots of Airbnbs around, but being on a houseboat right on the water with the city views that we have and the atmosphere, I mean, people just come away from it going, wow, that was a really one-in-a-lifetime kind of an experience. And they're very grateful. Yeah. And they say so.
Yeah, that's nice. It's good. That positive reinforcement's really good. All your hard work is paying off. What do you think? I have my suspicions, but what kind of buyer is most likely to be drawn to the short-term rental business?
I would say someone looking for cash flow. Harold might have a different opinion of that, but I think the most attractive feature is that it does flow a lot of cash on a monthly basis. And that gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. We've heard, I think in the last like 5 years, a lot of buzz about, buy an Airbnb, buy short-term rentals. And people do, but they buy them in these places that are pretty remote. And the property is, $350,000 or $650,000. And they rent it out for, $95 a night or something. But our numbers are different, right? Definitely. So Bob, you want to talk about the list price and what we get, per unit? Harold, you could do that per night.
Well, the first thing I'll point out is that the location is special for a number of reasons, right? It is 5 minutes from the city of San Francisco via the Golden Gate Bridge, but it also sits at the site of airplane tours of the Bay Area. The planes take off from right there. There's a heliport right there. All the public transport, buses, ferries, leave from right there. Including some of the things that you can only get to from there, like the Muir Woods tour bus leaves from just a block away.
Right.
And the San Francisco airporter leaves from a block and a half away. So
Right.
you can get to literally anywhere. You don't need to have a vehicle. If you do have a vehicle, there's places to park the vehicle. So it's got great access.
Yes.
And then when you go out and look in the market and see what else can I rent in this area, you're looking in a very pricey area to rent something for a night. You know, the what I think is the most comparable nightly rental for this property is a place called the Inn Above the Tides in Sausalito, which also has fabulous open water views like we do. But they're getting $500, $600, $700 a night for rooms there. I think it's a boutique. I know it's a boutique hotel. I think they might have 10 or 20 rooms. And we have these 4 units also right on the water, and people are able to rent them for much less money. So that makes it attractive.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other thing I would point out in terms of what makes it attractive, we have people who like the idea of being able to prepare their meals, and the kitchens are just state-of-the-art, lovely, modern,
Right.
fully equipped. You know, got induction cooking, microwaves, and everything works really well. If you want to bring fresh fish from the store and cook it up or whatever, bring your vegetables from the local Whole Foods or whatever we've got here. We've got plenty of stores around, so there's a lot of that really available. And another thing you mentioned that I wanted to piggyback on was about parking. We have allotted slots, so people don't have to worry about, am I going to be able to find a parking place around here? And it's a private lot, so it's never a problem. And we do get that question quite a bit.
Yeah. And in terms of how it compares, we've priced it at $1,747,000 is the list price. You get well, first of all, let's talk about the occupancy rate. It is very little vacancy, right? It's occupied.
The lowest vacancy rates in any given month is going to be, the slowest months of the year are about 80%.
Yeah.
A month and a half ago, I took a look, and the previous 30 days were 99%.
Right.
So it's just amazing. You get a whole month with nothing but filled rooms.
Right. Right. And Bob, did you want to say something?
Well, just it's 4 units, and it was still 99% occupied, all 4 units.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. Good job.
It is. I'm thinking about the people that I'm meeting when I show the property, and it's all over the map. We've got women who think, I'm just not pointing out to women, I'm just thinking of the woman, but we've got people who are thinking, wow, I could have this as a business, right? I don't have to live there. I'm just have it as a business. And the revenue is really good. Bob, you want to speak to that?
Sure. You spoke to pricing, and the thing I will say about pricing is it's a steal at this price because you make so much money on it.
Yeah.
The last full year of operations ending in December of last year, the gross revenue from all 4 units was $415,030. And when you take out the cleaning and the short-term rental taxes, it was still almost $350,000. $346,581 is the number on the chart that I'm looking at over here on my other screen.
Yeah.
And we're happy to provide those numbers to people when they're looking at the property. And that is really if you do a cap rate on the property, Depending on, what you include, it comes out anywhere between 12 and 17%, which is just an amazing cap rate, right? You can't find that anywhere in California,
Right.
and let alone for this kind of a unique property. So.
Yeah. And then we're meeting people who think, okay, well, I'm going to keep one unit as like, a pied a terre, and then I'll rent out the other 3, which I think is a great idea. We've had people who just want to buy one. We're not so interested in that because we'd like to sell the full boat. It's probably the highest and best use of that boat. We're meeting people who work in the tech industry, who are in Silicon Valley, who want to kind of be close enough so they can get to the brain trust down there, but kind of removed so they can kind of be in nature and, just have an idyllic life in Marin County. Marin County is pretty close. I mean, hour and 15 minutes, depending on the time, to wine country. You're probably 40 minutes away to the East Bay, and you've got Cal Berkeley. You're close to Stanford University down in Silicon Valley. And again, you're right across the bridge from San Francisco. So it is the ideal location that people can envision themselves being part of, and then monetizing the other parts of the boat that they don't use. I think that's really neat. Are they, well, we'll just go on. I was going to talk about some other people that we've met. It's very interesting having this listing and meeting the dreamers. I've loved that because there is something very special about Marin County and being on the bay. I mean, heck, there's a song written about sitting on the dock of the bay. But
it was actually written about a dock in Sausalito, that song.
I know. And so I do love the dreamers, right? And we've got business people who are checking us out right now, and they see sort of a good business opportunity.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah.
What has been most interesting to me is all of the professional short-term rental managers that we have toured at the property and that have made inquiries and even offers on the property. We've had a lot of interest from people who know this business, have been doing this business, have other short-term rental properties, and this is just an outlier for them. They don't see things with this kind of a profile, this kind of an income profile,
Right.
this kind of a renovation profile. It's interesting. The fact that it's interesting to them is very interesting to me.
Same. I agree. So what if short-term rentals get banned in Marin County? I mean, I across the country, actually across the world, people are kind of coming down on short-term rentals.
There's sort of two,
What do you say to that?
maybe Bob will take the second. I want to sort of piggyback on something you said before, and that was that we have people who are interested in buying just one unit.
Mm-hmm.
We have had a lot of interest that way, but we have not really encouraged just one buyer because that precludes then selling the whole boat. However, in anticipating that it could be desirable, as you mentioned, the dreamers, imagine 4 people who say, look, this is a great place for the 4 of us, 4 very people who want to be together, but we just want our separate space, separate kitchen, all that. And we put together a tenancy in common agreement that's really well done, that would allow a group of 4 people to buy this and have shares in the ownership of the LLC that could own this boat. So that's available for a group. Just wanted to point that out.
Which I think is a fabulous point to make. Yes.
And at that point, individuals in that group, I believe, could apply for short-term licenses, and it could still be running in a short-term sense for short-term rentals.
Right.
Yeah, there's been so to answer the question about short-term rentals, there's been a law passed in Marin County, an ordinance regarding short-term rentals. And of course, we've been watching that ordinance. The ordinance was passed due to the shortage of long-term rentals in some of our communities, like especially out in West Marin, places like Stinson Beach, Muir Beach, Point Reyes. So many people out there have taken to short-term renting their properties that people were having a hard time people who work there were having a hard time finding something close to work that they could afford to rent. And that was the impetus for this short-term rental ordinance, which passed. The fact that it was passed pointing itself at West Marin doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to us. Legally, it does apply to us, and we've gotten ourselves grandfathered into the short-term rental ordinance, so that we have 2 years of still 2 years, right, Harold, of runtime.
Yeah, at a minimum.
At a minimum, 2 years of runtime as a short-term rental, just because of the fact that we've been operating as a short-term rental already for over 2 years. And then the other thing that I would point out is, there are a number of solutions that would allow one or more of the units to continue to be rented on a short-term basis as an individual short-term rental, individual unit short-term rental. And there's also the zoning of the property, which would allow the whole property to be registered with the county as a bed and breakfast. That's different from a short-term rental. It's a different kind of license, and there's some to do with getting that license, but it's something that somebody could certainly entertain pursuing as a possibility if they want to keep the boat as a short-term rental. I think it's extremely well suited as a short-term rental.
And there is another short-term rental boat in that marina.
There are a couple of people that rent out part of their boat on a short-term basis within just the 11 units in Commodore Marina. There's only 11 units in Commodore Marina, and some of them have a kind of a blocked off area that they rent out on a short-term basis. We also got the right from the residents of the marina to do this as a short-term rental. So everybody basically signed a statement saying, yeah, we're happy to have you be able to do that as long as you meet our needs in these ways. And of course we do. But the last point I want to make is that even if you were to look at the cap rate of this property as a long-term rental, you were to rent out all 4 units as long-term rentals, monthly rentals, you would still be looking at a cap rate at this price, at the $1,747,000 price. You'd still be looking at a cap rate right around 5%, which is very hard to find as a long-term rental cap rate in Marin County.
Right.
Most of the places are at 3%, 4%. Very few are 5%. And honestly, by 2 years from now, that 747 is 1,747,000 is going to look the rental rates are going to go up, and you'll be very happy that you purchased this place at that price.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump in here and just say that I had a really nice talk with one of the owners of one of the other boats, and she was just sort of describing how Friday nights they get together, they do like a little happy hour, they kind of hang out, there's like a little bonfire, and the whole allure of the houseboat community that we've always heard of, and other houseboat communities along the shore there, it seems to be sort of thriving at 11 Commodore. It's a really good vibe. It's just nice and friendly.
It's smaller than any of the other marinas. Yeah. All the other marinas are located in Sausalito. This is the only one that's located in Mill Valley. It's right. Just barely in Mill Valley, even the mail that gets delivered from the Sausalito post office. So it's really just barely inside of the Mill Valley kind of general area. It's not inside the city limits. Yeah. And it's a 5-minute walk to Gate 5. I've done that walk many times myself to go get coffee in the morning. So I can tell you it takes about 5.5 minutes.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the questions that we have is regarding the lease at the marina. That comes up a lot. Mm-hmm. So what do you tell people if they say, well, what if we lose our lease at the marina?
So the first thing that I tell people is that all of the houseboat communities along this shore have a long history of consistently renting to the same boat owners. And there's a reason for that. The courts in Marin County have been extremely reticent to allow the marina owners to ask people to move their boats out of their marinas. And the reason for that is very obvious. There's no place to put those boats. They would have to go and anchor out. They're not really designed for anchoring out. They're designed for anchoring up against a marina. And so the county doesn't want those boats to go out there and sink and be in the way of traffic, marine traffic, and be a hazard. So they're very hesitant to do that. So it's a reasonable concern for people to have because it is a lease, but it hasn't really happened that marina owners have been able to evict a boat. What they can do is they can raise the rents. They can institute rules that some people find onerous, no parties after 10 o'clock was a big one that I remember at one of the marinas in Sausalito. But it's not very likely that the lease would not be extended. The lease is currently a 10-year lease. We're about 2.5 years into that 10-year lease. The lease has automatic extension terms in it. Some of them are really unique. For example, if someone were to finance the purchase of the boat and the term of the loan was longer than the term of the lease would automatically adjust to the term of the loan. And a provision like that in a lease, it's there to make it easier to borrow money on your property. But it's a great benefit to have. And, the other things that the lease has is it has automatic rent increases that are capped. So basically there's a cost of living allowance and it can't go up by more than 25% in 5 years, which sounds like a lot, but in Marin County, that's about what rents do anyway. So it's not really a lot. And what else would I say about the lease? The lease is a very, it's a very involved document. And I really recommend that people read it with their attorneys and really understand it. It's different from owning fee simple property. You don't own fee simple property. It's not considered real estate because it's not anchored to the bay floor. It's considered personal property. And those are all things that people should be aware of when they consider whether or not they want to purchase a property like this.
Yeah. We talked about the plans that they have to expand the marina. Do you guys want to talk about that?
What I understand to be the plan is the marina is owned by the same folks who own the tour, the seaplane and helicopter tours. And part of the marina includes a 2-story kind of office building that buffers the marina itself from the highway. And the plan is to renovate, and they're in the middle of renovating that 2-story building. And the plan is to put a fairly popular restaurant that has a couple of outlets in San Francisco and Berkeley called Pacino. And I think that's going to be the new restaurant in there. And that will be really great because, it's a 2-minute walk.
Right.
Not even.
Your door to a good restaurant. And then the other really good restaurant across by the transportation hub is the Buckeye, which is a roadhouse. And that's also a really great restaurant. So there's a lot of good eating right there. But by upgrading the marina with this restaurant, we're going to encourage even more guests and give them something that makes the rentals more appealing. Because it's just right there. You don't have to even get in your car. You just walk out the door.
Well, and the big gym, right, is right down the street from you. And that's just a real sort of luxury gym. Everybody wants to belong to that gym and work out. And they've got a great work area there as well as working out. And people are always bragging about, oh, I'm on the treadmill overlooking the bay. And it's the place to be, I think, in Marin for those people who like to work out. I think those are all the questions that I have. But do you guys want to share any other information that you would think other people would find helpful about this boat, 11 Commodore Marina?
Again, going back to the location, a couple things that you didn't mention, if people are visiting Marin because they want to see things in Marin, you're about a 10-minute drive from the top of Mount Tamalpais, which offers views overlooking the ocean and back overlooking the bay, all the way to Berkeley and San Jose and Napa. You can see everywhere from there. It's the highest mountain in the area, 10 minutes up the hill. And then another 5 minutes down the other side, and you're in Stinson Beach, which of course is a lovely beach community. You go through Muir Beach to get there, which is a smaller beach community. And you pass Muir Woods on the way, which now you can't park there anymore, so you have to take the tour bus to get there. They closed the parking for people driving, and you can drive through it. But Muir Woods is really better to walk through. It's a beautiful redwood grove, and just I've taken my kids there many times. They just really love it. It's a kind of a sacred, quiet place. It's a beautiful
Absolutely.
location.
And you're close to the headlands, which is great for biking and hiking, and yeah,
you could bike to the city easy. It's a great bike through Sausalito and to the Golden Gate Bridge, and then you bike over the bridge and you're in the city and the Presidio, and cruise along the Presidio. You can get to Fisherman's Wharf in a few minutes. I mean, it's just there are people that come the other way. A lot of people rent bikes in Fisherman's Wharf and come over the bridge to Sausalito. Not many of them make it as far as we are, and just at the other end of Sausalito. Most of them turn around downtown, but it's a great location for all kinds.
We have had guests who bring their bikes and take them into the unit, park them on the deck, and then ride them and to the city. And I had one couple brought their bikes that I can remember, and they rode their bikes to the city and then took the ferry back. And while they were in the city, they went to the ball game. Like I forget what it's called now. It used to be
Three-Com Park. Is it Three-Com Park now?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But anyway, they rode their bike to the ball game and then came home partly by the ferry, which is a lovely ride, and then rode from the ferry terminal in Sausalito back to us. And also really close past Muir Beach and past Stinson Beach, you get to the Bolinas Lagoon, which is absolutely gorgeous, and it follows the San Andreas Fault. So it's a long, narrow body of water with lots of birds, and you keep going and you go through Oliva Valley, again following the fault, and you come to Tamales Bay, which is more fault created water, and Tamales Bay has oyster farms on it, and it's just what a great day's expedition, to go from here. And you're passing right by Point Reyes, which is one of the most popular national parks in the country.
Just great hiking in Point Reyes. I've been on many hikes there.
Yeah. There's a lot there's so much natural beauty here in Marin. There's so much urban beauty in San Francisco and Oakland. There's wine beauty up in the wine country. It's a lot of great stuff about where we live. So anyway, well, if anybody's interested in learning more, you can reach out to us. We've got in the captions ways to get in touch with us, get a disclosure packet going. And, the property is rented a lot, but we do try to show property, meet people out there in the afternoons when there's a changeover happening. So if you are at all interested in viewing one of the units, please do reach out, and we would be happy to meet you there and talk to you more about it. Hey guys, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And
Pleasure.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Bob.
Bye.
Sure.